Hey, everybody, how are you doing today? Let's get into it. So listen, most wholesalers are doing deals, but they have actually no clue what it's actually costing them. They don't know what a lead really costs. They don't know how valuable their buyers are, and they're wondering why they're broke even after those 5-figure months. Listen, I have been investing for over 22 years, and I'll be honest, it's always been one of the weakest parts of my game, and probably yours too. So that's why I absolutely had to have Amanda Webster on today. She is the Chief Revenue Officer at Accruity. They are the financial operations team behind some of the biggest names in the real estate industry. Accruity helps 7, 8-figure investors clean up their numbers, fix their cash flow, and finally grow with confidence. Because once you understand your numbers, you stop guessing, you stop wasting money, and you start building a business that works even when you're not grinding 24/7. So today, Amanda's going to break down the top 3 KPIs, the only 3 that matter, that'll either save your business or slowly kill it if you keep ignoring it. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Closers Club. Amanda, how are you?
I am fantastic. That
Yeah.
was great music coming in. Like I was
I
dancing
know.
in the background.
We're jiving. We're ready to go. Well, cool. Let's get right into it. 3 KPIs. Let's talk about number 1.
Listen, I find it funny because a lot of people understand this first one in a different way, right? We call it CAC, right? The customer acquisition cost.
I feel like
Well,
Alex Hormozy said that once, and I didn't understand it when he mentioned it either. So
CAC is huge, right? CAC can be for a lot of things, right? So when you're looking at it from specifically like the wholesaler lens, right? Like what does that mean? Because acquiring a customer is very different in wholesaling industry, right? Like it's more acquiring the deal. We just don't want to CAD, I guess you could change it to, or DAC or whatever. But either way, the deal acquisition cost, right? So basically the amount of money it takes to acquire that deal, right? What does it take to do that? What's your marketing spend? But you can't just stop at marketing spend. So what does it actually like equal? It's the marketing spend. And if you have commissions, right? If you're doing sales commissions, whatever, you have to kind of take that in, and then you divide it out by the number of deals, right? And you get your cost of acquisition at that point. And this is the crucial like underlying number you need to get. So how do you do it, right? All right. So if I have 10,000 direct mailers sent out at $1 per mailer, clearly it's $10,000. And the sales commission is $5,000, right? So it's an easy 15K. These are just round numbers I'm using. And I land 3 closed deals from that mail campaign, right? So that means easy numbers, 15 divided by 3 is it cost me $5,000 to acquire each of those deals. And so when you can dial it in, you can see, well, was that a good number? For some people, it might be. Depends on your market and what your margins are. But that's that first piece you have to know to get into the other pieces.
Nice.
It's just, what did you have to do to acquire the deal? It's same thing you use in marketing, general businesses, but how do you use it for a wholesaler?
Right. Well, now I don't feel so dumb because I just always call that cost of the contract. But cool. Okay, now I get it. I appreciate you breaking that down. So yeah, I 100% agree that if you don't understand that, you're just out there willy-nilly spending money. And what do you think about this? I think you should track it by all of your different marketing channels so that you start to see which one is actually producing.
Yeah, it should be not even just channels, right? It's every campaign. Let's say you order 10,000, flyers that are one style, 10,000 another style. Like you should be able to dial in every single piece, no matter what you're doing, right? But in a wholesaler, which mailer, which ad campaign, which thing did they come from to see? Because that in the end is going to let you know, what do you put more money into? Where do you proportionally put your money, right? If paid ads are getting you deals, then and more deals, and the margin is higher for you, then you put more money into paid ads. But how do you know that? You got to know these KPIs and follow the money and the data to get it.
Yeah. So if you were sending out postcards, maybe you would just use a different phone number and then track the number of calls and
Yeah.
conversions that come that way. Or if you're sending them to a website, I'm not the
Different landing
website guy,
page. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
pixels or some nonsense that you would put on there. You need somebody that's probably far smarter than me to figure that out.
You're super smart. I don't know what you're talking about, David.
I
Come
am
on
not.
now.
I tell people I'm a very simple caveman. Like literally my knuckles would drag if I wasn't wearing sneakers, like they would be right there on the ground. So cool. I think that is incredibly important. Certainly I did not do that in the beginning parts of my career. And that is one of the things that caused problems because you just think, great, I had a good month. Right. I made $100,000, but I spent 80,000 of it in marketing. Right. So knowing those numbers is so important.
Yeah. So boiling down to that whole like revenue doesn't equal profit. It's all the
Right.
same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, if you don't break it down by each
Yeah.
campaign, each this, each that, how do you know what to
Mm-hmm.
put money into next month and the next
Yeah.
month? Like how do you know? Because how do you scale if you're
Right.
blinding yourself?
So is this at Accruity, is this something you guys you help your clients with, is to kind of look at that type of stuff?
Yeah, we want to dial in, right? Bookkeeping is the backbone of any kind of
Mm-hmm.
financials, right? Whether you do it, we do it, doesn't matter. But
Right.
when you get all those solid baseline financials in, we dial in KPI dashboards for people. So based on what they do, on their
Really?
industry, on their specific business model, we're
Hmm.
very niche in what does your business look like. So my KPI dashboard for Accruity is going to look different than your KPI dashboard for
Mm-hmm.
Easy REI closings, right?
Yeah.
But the KPI titles might be the same, but how we get to those numbers can be very different.
Interesting. I've never heard of a bookkeeper that delves in that deep.
Yeah.
I had to hire Hannah Heather to do all that stuff for me. Well, cool. So let's move on. What is the number 2 thing that people need to have in their business when they're tracking KPIs and the numbers?
So the number 2 thing is the lifetime value, right? The
Mm,
lifetime value of normally it's a customer, right? But what does that mean in a wholesale world? Because it's still super relevant. So basically, lifetime value is the total gross profit, not revenue, you'll
mhm.
make from a customer over the entire time you do business with them, right? That's the general description of what that is. But
Okay.
how does that relate to a wholesaler, right? Because you're
Right.
not dealing with the traditional customer model.
Mhm.
But I know you've probably ran into this plenty of times. Let's say that same 10K mailer, right? The
Mhm.
10K mailers go out, you close 3 deals.
Right.
One of those deals becomes a repeat investor,
Yeah.
brings you 2 more deals. So now that one technical client for you has brought you 3
Mm,
deals. So
yeah.
that's how, there's this whole thing that goes on in the marketing world of like client acquisition or deal acquisition will always be more expensive than cultivating repeat deals, right?
Oh, yeah.
Repeat investors, right? So
Right.
this is where lifetime value can come in and it allows you to figure out how to target, right? Getting some data, getting some information from that investor, how you did great for them,
Mhm.
getting almost like referral partners in the wholesaling world.
Right.
It's a doable thing, but what that becomes is that one is a repeat. Now you have
Yeah.
3 deals. So if
Right.
each of those deals, right, has a gross profit of say 15K, 20K less that 5,000 CAC we talked about, right? Now that lifetime value becomes $45,000
Mm,
versus just the $15,000.
yeah.
So it creates a compounding effect and it allows you to gather data because maybe it's a specific type of investor. Maybe it's a
Mhm.
specific area and maybe you can get into different, getting into groups and things can make those lifetime value happen. Because even
Yeah.
in wholesaling, if you're in a group, right? If you're in some type of mastermind that's for wholesaling, you'll be able to justify the cost of that because you're still paying
Mm,
for it and then you're compounding it. So the lifetime value is still relevant. Now, it's relevant in all industry. The
yeah.
lifetime value of your client should always be a huge thing because you should never want to just have one client. The client pays one time and that's it. Because then you're constantly just chasing acquisition after acquisition after acquisition.
Right.
If you can develop this pool of people that always are
Mhm.
having deal flow that you can then tap into, you're
Right.
no longer having to chase, you're compounding. You're still chasing, but now you're
Mhm.
able to compound on this end. So that's where lifetime value can be a huge piece. It also helps you plan much farther into the future if you know that you're going to continue to have that flow going.
Nice. So I think a couple takeaways here, especially for wholesalers, you have to have You obviously want good numbers. You want to be able to track that. But then, when a customer comes in, I need to be able to follow that customer journey all the way through. So
Yep.
great. So we make money on them on the first pass through. But then hopefully you did a good job. And then you say, hey, could you give me a review? And do you know anybody else that needs to sell your house very quickly? Right. So asking those types of follow-ups, that helps us. The way I like to think about it, again, very simple caveman, is I want to squeeze all the juice out of that orange that I possibly can. Right.
Yeah. And if it's the right person, it's not these are unicorns sometimes, but if it's the
Hmm.
right person, it
Yeah.
can be a never-ending flow. It may not be like 10 deals a month, but it can still
Hmm.
be a ongoing, maybe it's only one deal a month, but now
Right.
you're not paying to acquire that anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can still go over here and market and pay for, acquisitions on this
Mhm.
side, but now you
Yeah.
have this lead flow. Again, even if it's only one a month that you're
Right.
getting another deal out of, you can close it.
Mhm.
You're able to market, you're able to have a higher profit margin because you're not paying.
Yeah.
Now, later on, that 5,000 becomes less and less and less and less, right?
Right. Right. That's what I was gonna say. What if you've already done the cost to acquire the customer or the cost of a contract, now, you know that it should have cost you 3 or 4,000 or 5,000 or 10,000, whatever it is, depending on your market. And now we see that, oh my goodness, that one lead turned into 4 deals or 10 deals or something like that.
Yep.
It shows you how valuable it is.
Yeah. And now your CAC for that one person keeps going down and down and down and
Right.
down, and your profit margin goes up and up and up and up. So
Right.
it's a not a unique strategy. It's just one that
Mhm.
sometimes you have to understand how do you apply it to that specific industry.
Right. And I think that's just something that most investors, including myself, when I was getting started, we never look past that surface level of the transaction, right? I went out, I put out bandit signs, or paid someone to make some calls, I got a deal, you know, I got one deal. There may be 10 in the pipeline, but I got one deal. I made,
Yep.
$50,000 and spent 20,000, right? There's so much more to those numbers there that you should be tracking to see if that was a good investment of that $20,000 into that marketing channel, or maybe there was something else that was better.
Yeah. Yeah. And all tracking everything. It's going to be the
Tracking
key to
everything.
everything I say is
I
tracking as
know.
granularly as you can,
Yeah.
tracking everything.
I get it, but Amanda, wholesalers are who we are. We're banana heads. This is why easy exists too, and why bookkeepers exist. We're the worst. We're terrible at keeping track of things. We don't like it. It's like being a little kid and having to take a spoonful of medicine. Like, we're horrible at it. What
Live
advice
the
do you have for them?
80/20 rule. Always
Yeah.
going to be my answer to that. If
Okay.
it's not part of the 80% that's going to generate revenue, right? 80%
Yeah.
of your time is on revenue, 20%
Yeah.
is on the ancillary stuff you have to do, right?
Yeah.
You find somebody who you can do it for you. You find your Heather, you find a
Mhm.
company, you get some VAs. It doesn't matter how you
Yeah.
do it, and it will also depend on the scale, right? How
Sure.
how big is your organization? But you find the person that can do it and get it set up for you
Right.
and give you a dashboard, give you those reporting numbers so you're looking at them every single month because you
Yeah.
should be looking at my numbers I'm looking at today should be projecting and giving me information for 3 months from now.
Mhm.
I
Right.
should not be planning next month. It's the middle of June, right? I should not be planning next month
Mhm.
right now.
Right.
Like that should have already happened.
Yes.
So if you have it in a nice and you can do this with spreadsheets as much as I don't like to admit that. I don't like it because it's very difficult to
Yeah.
control.
Right.
But you have to be committed to doing it. But
Mhm.
you can do it in different ways. And so
Yeah.
it's just a matter of starting. Make a promise to yourself you're going to start it now. You can't go backwards sometimes and just start figuring out how to track it for you.
Yeah. Yeah, we are very big on tracking, and luckily, everybody else in my office is good at it other than me. So I come up with the things that we need to track and the things that I need to know to make decisions, and they are all fantastic at going out and rebuilding historically some of those things so we can look at those numbers.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, and that was sort of where I was going with that. Typically, investors, we're all of one mindset. We're banana heads and nitwits. But our good friend Tom Kroll always says, make like a personal assistant or executive assistant your first hire, because you need
Yes.
somebody that can do these things for you, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're not natural, or like the way we're built, most of us are not naturally good at this.
Yeah.
So yeah, 100%. Awesome. Well, what is the third financial KPI that every wholesaler must track? I know everybody is waiting for this.
This is probably the one that most people don't even think about
Yeah.
on probably in a lot of even just general businesses is what we call the CCC. So the cash conversion cycle. And this is super
Oh,
important
yes.
this is how you do what I just said. This is how you plan 3 months, right? This is how you plan these things. So basically, what is the time between spending money
Yeah.
and collecting the cash from
Yes.
that deal measured by days, right? In the days.
Yes.
So taking that same example I've been using the whole time, right? 10,000 mailers, $10,000, all that stuff. You close 3 deals, but in how long, right? So let's say the first deal closes in 19 days.
Right.
Second deal closes in 34, third deal closes in 65. Nothing wrong with those numbers. Kind of healthy actually to have it like to space it out. That's a nice kind of consistent flow. But what that means is it took you $20,000, or sorry, if you got $20,000 per deal, right? If we're going to say that's the revenue you got on each deal,
Yes.
that means you got 60,000, but you didn't get that 60,000 right away.
Right.
So on average, it took the cost cycle, or cash conversion cycle. I hate these CCs.
A lot.
The average was 39 days in that example. So if it took $10,000, took 39 days to turn into 60,000. So what does that all mean? Well, it's a great return, don't get me wrong, but what happens if your bills are due on day 25?
Yes.
And you don't have the money because you haven't returned it to yourself, right?
Right.
So it's a planning, but also it's how you scale. Because you don't want to have to keep acquiring money, right? Cash flow is always a problem. So you don't have to keep going out and finding new loans or, our good friend that does credit card stacking, right? Like you don't want to have to constantly keep going after that.
Yeah.
You want to be able to take the money you invested and recycle it and just
Yes.
keep recycling and recycling and recycling. And that's how you get the compound and scaling effect. So it's fine if it takes almost 40 days to make 10,000 into 60,000. But how do you plan in between, right? So if I know I have an average of 39 days, that means I know I need to be planning 2 months in advance. I need my marketing to be 3 months in advance to give me enough cushion. So that's why understanding that, and listen, that's an example. Some people's cash cycle could be shorter, could be longer.
Right. Depends on your strategy. Yeah.
And the cash cycle could be different on different marketing channels.
Yes.
Right. So paid ads might come, maybe that comes quicker for you. So, and maybe the mailers take longer, right? Because there's a whole cycle that goes into it. Or maybe door knocking is something you're doing. It's not necessarily a wholesaling. But my point is like, you have to understand each traffic level that you get.
That's true.
What is that
That's
cycle?
a great point. Yeah. Because if you're going for probate or bankruptcy, like those are going to be longer drawn out processes because of just what it takes to get that property cleared to be able to go get it closed. So I think that's amazing. That's so important. Cash conversion cycle, guys, fantastic. Something you should know. Like you just said, do we have the money in the bank to last for 30 days, 60 days, sometimes 90 days, right? And once you have all of these numbers and you have these KPIs, especially cash conversion cycle, now you can start to look at your business and go, oh, okay, how do I shrink that? How do I compress that? Right? Because that's the game. The game is once you have the numbers, that's not the end. Now it's how do I squeeze it and how do I get better? And now we can start to go in and look at your business and go, okay, great. It's taking me from this long from the time I send out my mailer till the time I start getting calls. And then I get calls and then it's this long till I get the contract and then till I sell it and then till I close. Where are the gaps in that? Right? Or where is something all of a sudden taking too long? And you could focus on that part of the business and just say, instead of saying, oh, I need to throw the whole thing out and start over again. Oh my God, that just,
don't do that.
Don't do that. Just work on the parts that are broken and fix one thing at a time. And over the course of a year, this is how you get your business spinning faster and faster and faster.
Yeah. And each of those KPIs has different ways that you improve them, right? But all of them balance off of each other. That's why they're the core in any business. Obviously, I'm giving you wholesaling examples. I can give flipping examples. I can give Burr if you're buy and hold, right? Like I can give you coaching examples. But the whole point is the metrics by definition are the same.
Yeah.
It's just what the input and the output is different depending on your industry. So it's just a very basic set of KPIs that you can build an entire business around, right? Is understanding those things they have to be dialed in, and it's one of the things that, I've known about it on the other side, like in a different industry, and didn't understand how easily it converted into real estate, right? It worked. I had the same thing in law, right? I had marketing ad spend. I had this going. I had the same thing in the funding side. Like it's all the same, but you have to understand it for your niche, for your industry, and for what works for you, and then get as granular as you can, because that is going to help you seriously look and understand how to make really great decisions. Because when you make decisions with numbers, there's no emotion, there's no people, there's no anything. It's just straight data and numbers. And
there are sometimes hurt feelings though, Amanda. Like sometimes you have to look in the mirror and go, that's a little ugly.
Yeah, but you know what? If you follow the numbers from the beginning, most of the times you won't make decisions that make you hurt those feelings.
Yeah. Right. But so let's talk about that real quick. So first off, tell us a little bit about Accruity and tell me, like, for people who don't know you, which is shocking, but if they don't, and then a little bit about, just like a minute, like, what do you guys do? Because a lot of people are listening to this and going, holy shit, I need that in my business. Like, I need somebody that can hold my hand and walk me through to the Garden of Eden, because I'm a nitwit like David is, and I don't know what to do, and I don't want to admit it. So please be nice to me when I call.
So Accruity was literally created by an investor who happens to also be a CPA by trade, but by an investor because he saw the market had this missing piece for the real estate investing market. Now we've branched out a little bit more than just real estate, but we granularly figured it out first. Every single type of real estate too. We touch all the arms. So we are a complete financial advisory back office solution for any service-based business, but our main niche is real estate, including tax advisory and tax. We do everything in one place. Everything is in-house. And we do it we have different packages, basically meaning that if you come to us and you have a great transactional bookkeeper, they can type all the transactions in, they can get your receipts in, they can put them in the right chart of accounts, they can do all the categorizations and everything for you. And you just need us to help you build out the true infrastructure of the dashboards, the financials, and do that on a monthly basis and keep delivering those things. We have that. Or we can be the full office. We can do all the bookkeeping. We can do basically, it's not really fractional CFO the way that you and I know it to be, but it becomes that because we operate in that seat because you don't have it. So we're not necessarily making any strategic decisions for you, but we're going to give you all the things to arm you with it, including getting your financials bankable, right? Getting them ready to get lending. That is a huge thing. Understanding your financial statements. And we could do a whole nother show about that, of like, what are those financial statements for that? So we handle all of that. So we cover all 50 states, and like I said, we have huge, huge big accounts. And then we have just like, people just coming out and they just want to start it right. So we kind of serve all sizes in that sense.
Nice. So we just popped up in the chat or in the comments. We just put in the comments the link where some people can get a hold of you. What happens when?
So if you just opted through there, all that's doing is going to offer you to give you a free call. Basically, jump on a call with us. Let's see what your business setup is. Let's see where you're at. Let's see if it makes sense now and to what level it makes sense. And at the end of the day, if you're in good shape and you just need like a little bit of help, like we've got some one-offs, but it doesn't hurt to have that phone call, right? It doesn't cost you anything. Let's see where you're at. Let's see how we can help you. And if you're a complete mess, don't be scared, because we have a great process.
That's what I was going to say. Are you going to be nice to me when I call, and for everybody else? Because I will tell you, there's so much shame that goes around not having good financials. At least for me, clearly I am really good at a lot of shit. I am fucking really great. However, this is not it. And we've had this conversation so many times. And I think a lot of people have that same, just they're uncomfortable with it because our schools don't do a great job teaching it. And that's a whole nother topic. But I think, people, and then they want to have that kind of ostrich syndrome of, I'm just going to put my head in the sand. I'll make more money and figure it out later. So I mean, I love that you guys are compassionate and you're real estate investors, and there's no shame to go around, because I've had accountants who, God, just make me feel like the biggest loser when I get off the phone.
It's not worth it, right? And we have people that come with us with just a bunch of Google Sheets, and that's okay. It's okay to come with us. We've had people who come with us with boxes of receipts. Okay, we've had people that haven't filed taxes in 3 years. We've seen it all. It's fine. It's very normal. It's actually more normal for it to be a mess than it to be put together. Let me put it that way.
If they're all put together, you're like, what kind of a psychotic person
You're
are
me.
you?
No.
How are you that well, I mean, clearly women are far better at this than men. You know, the few dudes that are like good at it are the rare breed. And the fact that Casey is a CPA and an investor is like, you know, the trifecta, like it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It's so rare. It's just not, there's just two personality types that typically don't
And
go
he's
together.
not your normal CPA accountant personality either. He's very very social, big personality.
That's what, when you or him told me he was a CPA, I'm like, kind of like going back through my brain, like I've had conversations with him. He seemed very normal. Did not seem like that kind of guy.
He's very normal.
So, all right, Miss Amanda, my good friend. I know we've kept you longer than 20 minutes. Thank you so much. Absolutely amazing, guys. This is important. I promise you. If you follow me at all, trust me, I've been doing this for a million years. It feels like decades and decades. And I promise you, the one thing that you regret, that you'll absolutely regret, is not having your financial stuff in order. It will cause you so many problems down the road because you can make a lot of money this month, but you want to be fundable, you want to be bankable, and you cannot do that without just good books, bookkeeping, and good accounting. So if that's a struggle for you, I highly encourage you. Check out Accruity. My friend Amanda would not be with them if they were not the absolute best. And I've sat and talked to the founder and owner lots of times. So for real, definitely reach out to them and let's get your bookkeeping.
Thanks for having me.
You bet.